Hi, it's Gina. Let's make a card today. Easter is coming, so I thought, why don't we make an Easter card? This is the card we're going to make today. Let's get started. Okay, so I have a piece of watercolor paper. I went and I bought a small pad of watercolor paper, and I cut them to the sizes I need for working on. I've been really enjoying using the watercolor paper. I had some before, but I didn't have a lot of it, and I didn't really understand the difference between it and cardstock. And I think until I had enough that I could work with it more, it wasn't clear to me. I can't describe the difference. I'm sorry. I would suggest you invest in some. It's fun to work with. But I used regular cardstock for a long time, and it works also. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out my bunny. The bunny I'm using comes from the Cottage Garden set from Newton's Nook. And as always, I will put everything down below so you can see where to get it and what I'm talking about. I think the really great thing about this card is it's flexible. You could use any die that you have. I'm going to use my Cuttlebug. I'm just going to put my die in a convenient spot and run it through. Alright, and I'll save my little cutout bunny because it is Easter time and bunnies are going on lots of cards, and I'm sure that bunny will get used on another card. And put everything away. So, now, we're going to take a blending tool. Actually, I'm going to grab two of them because I'm using two different colors. I'm going to start with my tumbled glass, which is the blue color. It's one of the Holtz Distressings. I love these. I'm still trying to figure out the perfect way to hold the blending tools. I just learned that there is the right way to hold them. But honestly, if it gets the color on, pretty sure there's no perfect way. So I'm going to start from the side, and I'm going to start blending on my blue. And I have a desk mat down to protect my surface. It's always down. I highly suggest these, especially if you do a lot of crafts. Not only for me, but when the kids do crafts, I have them do them on the mat because it's amazingly easy to clean it up. I've cleaned tempera paint, I've cleaned acrylic paints, I've cleaned molding clay. They've all cleaned off pretty easily. I did some ink that didn't come off, but I think the mat's getting kind of old, and that might be the problem. Alright, I'm going to switch to my green. I'm using Bundled Sage. And I don't know if you noticed, but I keep the pad for the color of the ink on the bottom of my, all my mini inks. Just makes it so much easier to have an ink for each color. They're ready to go. I'm not searching for pads. And that way, it's an easy, it actually makes me use them more. I think that's a good thing. Anything that gets you to use your tools more is always an awesome thing. If you hear whining in the back, that's my dog. A lot of times he thinks if I'm FaceTiming, especially one of the kids, that he needs to be part of the conversation. So apparently he thinks he needs to be part of this conversation too. Okay, so I've got a bit of ink on. I'm going to grab my mister. It's a mini mister by Ranger also. And I'm going to spray the cards so that the colors blend. I want that blue and that green to blend a bit. I also like when you spray them, the colors become not quite as blotchy. So I'm going to let it work for a little bit. And I kind of move it back and forth just to get the colors to move and blend. I don't want to take too long, so out comes the heat tool. So I'm going to dry this a bit. I think this is where the watercolor paper really comes into its own. If you're using cardstock instead, cardstock doesn't play as nicely misting it with water. It doesn't dry as nicely. It still works. I haven't, like I said, I hadn't had a problem with it, but okay, it doesn't need to be perfect. So then what I do, I have a towel here. I go ahead and dry off my area a bit. Maybe blot that one spot that doesn't want to dry at all. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to add some more color. I'm going to add a little bit more blue. I know watching Tim Holtz videos that he has lots of layers. I tend to stick to 2. Maybe in the future I'll get more adventurous and do more layers, but so far 2's been my perfect level of color. Alright, here's our second level of blue. Now to add a second level of green. I think I noticed I also hold the blending tool differently if I'm coming in from the left or the right, which Who knows? I'm sure there's some brain science dominant hand, you know, I have no idea. Okay. I always notice that one color seems to go on faster, smoother, easier. I think it's just the way it is. So, I'll take this off, pop it on the bottom. I'm done with that one. I'm done with this one too, but I'll take care of that later. And so I'm going to mist it again. Another quick misting. I guess I'm out of water, so I'm done misting. And again, I'll move it a bit. I don't want the colors to puddle, but I do want them to blend. And go ahead and wipe up the back here and dry. So now, one of the things that I really love about this, as you may not have noticed, from the first card I showed you to this card, it's changed a bit. And whenever you're working with these inks, you're never going to get a completely consistent from one card to the other. Each card has its own personality. And that's just the way it is. I'll even make a couple of cards at the same time, and they'll still each be slightly different. And I kind of love that about it. That's how watercolors are supposed to be, I believe. Again, there's some spots that just don't dry as well. Okay. If you notice the camera's moved a little bit, I had a bit of a battery issue, so I've reset up the camera. It should all be good now. I'm really sorry about that. If I don't have technical difficulties, I just wouldn't know what to do. So, okay. So what I'm going to do next is stamp my Happy Easter onto my card. The Happy comes from Newton's Nook's Essential Greetings, and I actually borrowed the Easter from SugarPea. I don't remember the name of the set, but like I said, everything will be down below, so you can look down there and it will tell you. Where did I put my ink pad? There it is. I'm always losing stuff by setting it next to myself. So, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ink this up. And I'm using Colorbox Wicked Black, the fast drying permanent ink. And I'm also using my mini MISTI to put everything in the perfect spot. There we go. It says Happy Easter. And I'm going to take a baby wipe. I used this just a bit earlier, that's why it didn't come fresh out of the pack, but it's still damp. There we go. Set that aside. Now, one thing I do If you notice these spots on the side here, I always start with a piece of cardstock, especially for doing watercolor things, that's bigger than what I want to end up with, and then I trim it down. And I'm going to trim some off the bottom and some off the sides. So at the end I want this to be 5.25. And I started with 5.5. And I started with it 4 wide. And I want it to be 3.75. So I kind of cut an even amount off of each side and off of the bottom until I get to what I'm trying, the size I'm trying to get to. And that helps make things look a little nicer. I think I took too much off of one side and not enough off the other. But it's still, it's okay. That always kind of happens. So now I'm going to take my card base that I made up ahead of time, and I'm going to apply my adhesive. And add a background piece of cardstock, which this time is going to be yellow cardstock. And I'm going to take my pair of scissors and trim. Make sure everything looks nice and neat. And trim the bottom. Throw my scraps in my recycling. That looks good. Put my scissors aside. And now I'm going to add adhesive to the back of my card front that I just made. And I think the thing that I really love about this card is that although this happens to be an Easter card, you could do this for anything. You could use any die that you happen to have to cut out, Christmas or Valentine's. You could add any colors that work for you. And there's our finished card. And you could add any embellishments you want. A bit of glitter, enamel drops, some sequins. I kind of like the clean and simple plain look of this card. So, here it is compared to the one I showed you in the beginning. You can see some of the differences. Like I said, they each come out a bit different. But hopefully you now have another Easter card that you can make. Thank you for joining me today. Remember, like this video, subscribe. Everything that I used will be down below if you're interested. Have a great day. Have a great week. I'll see you again soon. Bye.